Hello learners, welcome to this session of the program Postgraduate Diploma in Sustainability Science. Today we will be discussing about environmental ethics. This is part of the course on sustainability science. You must be aware and you must have been knowing what is the meaning of ethics. So, what are environmental ethics? Do we have certain moral values towards the environment? What is the meaning of environmental ethics? Are there any kinds of environmental ethics? All these things we are going to learn in today's session. So, let us first of all know what are ethics. So, ethics is actually a branch of philosophy which defines what is right and what is wrong irrespective of the cultural differences. Learners, you must be aware of this thing. We follow ethics everywhere. We follow moral values, code of conduct, which is always there, and we are guided since birth about what is right and what is wrong. In our workplace, at our homes, at public places, everywhere we follow the ethics, and actually it is the desirable behavior which is expected. Now, when it comes to environment and when it comes to environmental ethics, there should also be certain moral values, certain code of conduct with regards to our relationship with nature. This has hardly been seen nowadays. So, we have to understand what is the meaning and importance of environmental ethics in today's scenario where we have jeopardized the natural resources, environmental pollution is at the peak, we are seeing climatic changes taking place everywhere, biodiversity is getting lost every year. So, do we have certain ethics towards the environment, or we are bound to use the resource of the environment in our own beneficial ways? So, let us now, after knowing that what is ethics according to the dictionary, according to the moral values, according to our behavior, every one of us understands that what is the meaning of ethics and what is an ethical behavior. But now let us focus our attention towards environmental ethics. So, what is environmental ethics? Actually, it is a discipline which comes under philosophy. The principles are guided by the philosophical thoughts which believe that as we are inhabiting this earth, so are the other creatures, the other organisms which are there on this planet. So, it very well believes and it sets up the moral relationship with nature. As we are existing, so other plants and animals also have full right to exist in a bountiful manner, exist like we are also existing, and we do not have any right to encroach upon their existence and their survival. So, it clearly states that environmental ethics studies the moral relationship of human beings and also the value and moral status of environment and also with the non-human part. So, it is not just the plants, animals and other living creatures, but also about the non-living ones. We also have to take care of the soil, the water, which are also precious assets. So, broadly speaking, environmental ethics defines and redefines every time the relationship of human beings with other animate and inanimate objects on this planet. We have a responsibility like other this thing towards the plants, even small microorganisms, and also towards the non-living components of the environment which are abiotic. We have to understand this thing that environmental ethics has the roots in the belief that we have to agree to this, that human beings are also part of the nature. So, we are not supreme, we are not above other living creatures, but we are also the part of this nature. And the nature, the environment, the surroundings comprises of the biotic and the abiotic components. We very well know that. So, as there are other components on this earth, human beings are also a part of nature. We are a constituent of the different elements which are there. Then there are interconnections between nature and human beings. We are related. Nothing can exist in isolation. Not even the other living creatures, not even the human beings. There is always a give and take relationship going on between nature and human beings. We are taking oxygen, as simple as that, from the plants. We are taking the resources, and their existence is also because of so many functions that we are performing. So, there is interrelationships. We are the protectors of the environment in certain cases. And most importantly, well-being of individuals. Health, well-being, good survival, quality life, all these parameters of good living are also linked to the healthy ecosystems, the healthy environment. So, a healthy environment can only sustain healthy individuals. If we want to keep ourselves healthy, if we want to have a good quality life, it is prudent on our part to take care of nature and the assets that the nature has given to us. So, all these principles which we have said, they form the basis of the environmental ethics, because unless and until we agree to this point that we are also part of it, we are related, nothing can exist in isolation, we are dependent upon each other, and our sustenance and our healthy life is possible only when we have the healthy ecosystems. So, that forms the basis of environmental ethics. And environmental protection is the right of nature as it is the extension of human rights. We know our rights, we very well know about the human rights. Similarly, just as we enjoy the human right of freedom, expression, movement, education, health, so as the nature also has the right of the nature. It is known as the right of the nature because they also have the right to flourish. They also have to have the life which is free from any human interference, which is free from human disturbances, which doesn't have any challenges of existing. Right now we are seeing that because of human encroachment in the territories of the plants and the animals and the forests, what is happening is that we are responsible for degrading their habitat. So that should not be the case, and we have to understand this thing very clearly. Just as we inhabit the earth, saying that it is our human right, so does the nature and the components of the nature have the right to exist on this planet. And it is not new to India, because if you look back and you look at the traditions of India since long times, we can see that environmental protection, environmental preservation is rooted in our culture, is rooted in our ancient beliefs, and we have been following the practices of environmental protection and environmental conservation since times immemorial. Since Vedic era, since 5,000 years ago, we have the instances, we have the examples where we can say that we have been following the principles of environmental ethics, because it has been mentioned that to take care of the plants, to protect the trees, to take care of other living creatures, that is already mentioned in our ancient text. So, around 5,000, 6,000 years back, we have the examples where we are citing the role and importance of environmental ethics. So, it is not a new concept for us. We know very well, understand the importance of protected environment. We very well know the importance of healthy environment for our own healthy survival. And similarly, conservation of natural resources. It is also rooted in our practices. We know how to utilize the solar energy. We know that it is very important to conserve water. We have made several provisions for protecting the soil, for protecting the water. In our ancient practices, it is clearly visible. We don't have the tendency of wasting things. We are always based our lifestyle on frugal consumption of the resources. So this is already there. We have been practicing this. The only thing required now is to have the re-understanding of all these things which we have been following since generations. But now, because of our own false practices, there is an environmental degradation and all the related problems which have come into being nowadays. And compassion for inanimates, it has already been seen, and India is thoughtful about environmental protection. It is thoughtful about the practices of the nature. It is also thoughtful about protection of the species. So all these things are not new to us. So environmental ethics, we already have those ethics in practice. Now we understand that what are the different types of the ethics. They are development ethic, preservation ethic, and conservation ethic. Let us see one by one what does it mean. First of all, let us see what is development ethic. Development ethic points and states that if it can be done, it should be done. That is a simple tagline associated with it. And what does it mean? It means that if we are able to extract something from the nature, and if it is beneficial for us, if it improves our standard of living, if it makes our life convenient, then we should use those resources. It states that nature and all the components of the nature, the resources of the nature are for human consumption. It believes that everything is there for human beings to consume. So it defines that it is the human right to consume and to use the natural resources for its own benefit. However, basic needs and social justice are met with the process of development. This is the view behind this, that if we develop, if you use the resources, if you are able to progress, then definitely we will be able to meet the human needs. We will be able to prosper if we have the economic development, so that there will be no poor. So if there are no poor, there will be no environmental pollution. So this is a kind of a, it's a kind of a view which has been presented. Next is the preservation ethic. The preservation ethics points to the fact, and it suggests that nature itself has an intrinsic value and it deserves protection. It is based on the philosophy that human beings and nature or the natural components should exist on this earth, and there should not be any kind of giving or taking place. It simply means that as we are inhabiting the earth, so are the natural resources living, and there should not be any kind of a disturbance between these two components of the environment. It says that there are equal rights of existence, and this kind of preservation ethics, the proponents of this ethics believe that we should not take anything from the nature, let the nature flourish by itself, and we should also live our lives according to the nature. So no extraction, no usage of the resources from the nature should be done according to this ethic. However, our existence is not possible as compared to, as we believe, this kind of ethics which is called the preservation ethic. Then there is the balanced view of these two ethics, because these are the development ethic and the preservation ethic are both the extremes. Neither we can fully utilize all the resources of the nature, nor it is possible for us to live in isolation without taking anything from the nature. So the third ethic is called the conservation ethic. According to the conservation ethic, it is believed that all the resources should be used judiciously. There should be balance in our activities. Whatever we are doing, whatever resources we are consuming from the nature, they should be done in an equitable manner. It should be consumed judiciously, and there should always be a provision for the regulation of these resources, for the renewal of these resources. So the primary focus of conservation ethics is maintaining the balance of the nature, having a balance in the utilization of the nature, but along with this it also stresses upon the development of the individuals, which is possible only through the use of the resources which the nature has given to us. So environmental ethics is also important at three levels. It is industrial environmental ethic, individual environmental ethic, and the global environmental ethic. Now we have to understand here the differences. Industrial environmental ethic means, say for example, the industries, the corporate sectors. Many a times they compromise on the ethics by making false products, by discharging pollutants into the atmosphere or in the water bodies. So according to corporate environmental responsibility, it is stated that every corporate organization has a responsibility towards the environment protection also. We do not have the right to extract the resources infinite ways from the nature and dump the waste products or dump all the harmful substances into the environment. So it follows so it states that industries should also follow ethic, that is called industrial ethics, industrial environmental ethics, because following corporate environmental responsibility is not a luxury anymore. It is very, very important on everybody's part. So therefore, it has been said that whether industries or business organizations, while making their plans and while using the resources, they should have a clear map where they are not using the resources, over extracting the resources, and also they have to make provisions for environmental protection according to their own means. Many times there are usage of the faulty practices, many times there are environmentally degrading way of extracting the resources is also being carried out. So it needs to be checked at every level. Then there is individual environmental ethic, which means that every individual is accountable for its actions. So it is governed by self moral values and self ethics, where you check every time whenever we are interacting with the outside world, whenever we are using the resources of the nature. It is our individual environmental ethic to check whether we are having a considerate view, considerate manner towards the environment, whether we are in a position to protect the environment, and we have to check that are we not utilizing the resources in a non-consumptive manner. That is individual environmental ethics, and every individual, if it follows the ethics towards the environment, then we will be able to solve many of the environmental problems that we are facing today. So it is a responsibility of every individual for whatever be the small steps we can take for the protection of the environment. So we have to check from our own angle. So as we follow the ethics in our behavior wherever we move out, similarly we have to check ourselves, are we following the environmental ethics through our behavior wherever we are going? Are we saving water? Are we not using the resources which are degrading to the environment? Are we following proper environmental codes? All these things are very important, and they come from the view of individual environmental ethic. Then next is the global environmental ethics. It means that internationally also the countries should come forward for having an international cooperation and support for the protection of the environment, because many times we have seen that while negotiations are taking place for climate change or for biodiversity, it is observed that there is no consensus between the different countries. There is always a blame game taking place. So this type of thing should not be there, because any environmental problem is not confined to any boundary. It flows everywhere. Similarly, in the case of natural disasters or in case of climate change, the effects are felt by everyone. So all the countries should come forward, should have a kind of a common deliberation for the protection of the environment and the various components. So that is the global environmental ethic, because when it comes for the protection of the environment, every country should support each other, every country should come forward and devise suitable plans and measures for the protection of environment and conservation of natural resources. Similarly, there is another viewpoint which says eco-philosophy. What is eco-philosophy? Eco-philosophy, it says that humanity is the integral part of nature. Now, it considers the spiritual aspect. Right now, we were talking about environmental ethics, and that were concerned regarding our behavior towards the environment, our behavior while we interact with the environment. But eco-philosophy has its roots in the spirituality, which says that humanity and concerning towards the nature are an integral part. So we cannot separate human beings from the nature, because God has created both of them, and there have to be mutually coexist. So that is a philosophy which is based on this thing, that human beings and nature, both of them exist together, are mutually dependent, and it is all because of the spiritual force which is there. So the central concept of eco-philosophy is the world as a sanctuary, which is alternative to earlier concept of world as a machine. So earlier what we were believing, that world is a machine, but now we have to think that world is actually a sanctuary, and a sanctuary is a place where all the organisms exist together for the benefit of each other. So we have to follow this notion that world is not a machine where we are producing and with the help of the machines we are able to satisfy the needs of the people by the production and consumption process. However, it is like a sanctuary, it is like a coexistence model which must be there in nature. So that states about, and we have to focus all our attention, all our efforts considering this important viewpoint, that world is a place where all the natural elements along with the biotic creatures exist together. There are different tenets of eco-philosophy, and which states that the world is a leader, they have to come forward internationally, everybody has to support each other, and reverence for life is our guiding principle. There should be a respect for life. We have to have that kind of spirituality in our mind where we think that every living creature is important, every living creature which is surviving has a kind of a spiritual bondage, and prudence is a prerequisite for inner happiness. We should have a respect for each other, for diligently decisions we are taking, whether it is related to environment or whether it is related to biodiversity or any natural resource we are talking about. There should be, our decisions should be based on prudence, where we have to check the long term sustainability of availability of these resources. And another important, very important point here is that spirituality and rationality do not exclude each other. They are not different from each other, but they are complementing each other. Many a times it is believed that they are separate from each other. However, it is not so. So we have to keep this in mind while we follow eco-philosophy or when we talk about environmental ethics, that these two phenomena are complementing each other. And lastly, in order to heal the world, first of all, it is important to heal ourselves. That simply means that we have to have that kind of conviction among ourselves and that kind of belief among ourselves that we are part of this nature. So if we have to be remaining healthy, we have to be protective towards other living creatures who are smaller than us. So that kind of interaction, when it will exist in the environment, then definitely we will be able to follow the principles of eco-philosophy also, and we will be able to do a justice, and we will be following the environmental ethics in the true sense if we follow the tenets of eco-philosophy. And it has been very well said that Indian ethos and eco-philosophy are related to each other, because in our religions, in our ancient texts, in our literature, it is clearly mentioned that we have a connection with the God, and we put ourselves in a situation where we regard all the living creatures with respect. We see divine feelings with the different creatures, and we have associated our deities with different trees, plants, animals, and that is very clearly evident in hymns also, in rural you can say our religious texts also, religious whatever we say, that we have the songs, and everywhere we have noticed this thing, that it is clearly visible. And not to forget about the Vedas and Upanishads, which clearly demonstrate in every connection, they have made this thing very important and very clear, that human beings have a relationship with the surroundings, and both of the paths have to coexist, and all these things are very important for our healthy survival on this planet. So nowhere it is mentioned like that resources should be consumed in an indefinite manner, and we have to understand this thing, that we cannot exist in isolation. We need a healthy planet, we need our healthy surroundings, we need healthy ecosystems for our own healthy survival. I think with this we end. Thank you.